Today, we're excited to have Gerard Carton, currently serving as CEO of PlantQuest, with us to share insights into industrial maintenance. With a 20-year journey that began in maintenance, pivoted to commissioning, and now has returned to maintenance, Gerard brings a holistic perspective to the table. Their experience spans across multiple sectors like oil and gas and pharmaceuticals, having worked with reputed companies like PM Group, Total, and Impex. Back in the maintenance space after exploring various roles and industries, Gerard is a thought leader in industrial asset management systems. Don't miss this enlightening conversation.
So, thanks for joining us today, Joe. We really appreciate your time to talk to us today about maintenance management. I'm Lauren, our podcast organiser, and as I mentioned previously, we find that maintenance teams are often underrated, which I'm sure you agree with. So hopefully with your podcast, we're going to further highlight the importance of maintenance management to our audience. We do these podcasts to gain insights from experts in the maintenance management field, and we learn a lot from their experience. We understand that you've come full circle from starting off as an apprentice to now being a co-founder of your own business. So we know your insights today will be really valuable for our listeners. With that said, I will pass you over to our host, our senior research analyst, Charlie, and our head of content, Ryan.
Thank you, Lauren. So, Joe, we'd like to start the episode with a bit of an origin story, if you like. So could you take us through your journey from instrumentation apprentice at Lotus Works to working across the globe in various instrument commissioning roles, eventually leading to an instrument commissioning lead at Total? That's a tongue twister.
Yeah, I suppose I started off, as you said, as an instrument apprentice with a company around called Lotus Works, and I suppose we're very lucky in Ireland in the last 25 years, 30 years, we've really become a magnet for foreign direct investment and multinationals. So we've an awful lot of pharmaceutical manufacturing and semiconductor manufacturing. I think Ireland's actually the second biggest exporter of pharmaceuticals in the world. So with that, there's lots of companies that service these organizations. So, as an apprentice, I got huge exposure to, really high-end, really strong compliance companies. And obviously with the latest technology as well, So I served my time, across the semiconductor, pharmaceutical, and biomedical space for about 4 years. And I kind of, like a lot of people, once they come out of their time, I left the country as soon as possible, and I ended up on a small island north of Norway, working on an LNG plant. And that was the start really of my career in the oil and gas space. So I kind of moved around a lot over the next few years, countries like Australia, South Korea, Shetland Islands, North Sea, and further afield again, gaining real exposure in the maintenance and commissioning space. So all throughout my career, I came across this problem which was, where is something? Because I was always moving to a new plant, and I'd stayed there for maybe 2 or 3 years, and we always had this vision of creating a solution that could really just look. We all grew up now with Google Maps, So what we really wanted was to have that kind of Google Maps experience at work. So I'd finished a job in South Korea, and I had some time off, and I had some spare capacity. So I decided to try my hand at starting a business. So I joined a few accelerators and programs, and I started testing out my hypotheses. And initially we tried to sell it into the pharmaceutical space, into the oil and gas space. But being based in Ireland at the time, we started getting significant traction in the pharma space, and we've kind of been there since. So really, it's been a career of continuous improvement. So it was working with companies that really invested in me and in my own capacity and ability. Moving on, and later on in my career, I did a degree in economics, and by the time I got to my early 30s, I felt there was more in me, and I decided to scratch the itch that I'd had for numerous years, and a product and a relatively successful company has come out of it.
That's fantastic. You kind of alluded to it there, but you spent a lot of time working across the globe, and as you mentioned, Australia, Korea, Norway, and back to Ireland. I just wanted to know how this was for you, and what kind of influenced you to kind of branch out and go around the globe.
I suppose I come from a family of of immigrants. You know, it's just been a thing that we've done. But a lot of Irish people and a lot of Irish companies, because Ireland is such a small place, there's only so much work within Ireland, so they more often than not look further afield. So a lot of my initial contracts abroad were with Irish companies, and then as you stay out there longer, you grow your network with, and I ended up working for British companies and French companies and American companies and Australian companies. Um, but yeah, I suppose the real genesis of it is looking for something new. In Ireland at the time, there wasn't really any oil and gas. There still isn't really, and it's quite exciting to be going on helicopters or to be working in shipyards and all that kind of stuff. And when you're young, that's what you want to do until you have kids.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. That sounds so fascinating. Yeah, now as you said, you're the CEO and co-founder of PlantQuest. First of all, congratulations. And second of all, could you talk us through like the timeline and motivation behind developing this platform and company, and what a typical day looks like for you?
Yeah, so we started the company 5 years ago. As I said, I had some downtime after a project in Asia, and me and my co-founder got together. We had worked together on a previous job, and we both had the same idea. So we went in and, like I said, we tested our hypotheses with a few different customers, and we built an MVP. And for about 2 years, we kind of tag teamed it. I would work maybe a day or two a week consulting for pharmaceutical companies, and I would spend the rest of the time working on the product itself. And my partner was in Kuwait at the time, my business partner, and we would take it in turns, kind of working and working in a job and working on the product until eventually we got enough traction with one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world that we raised some funding, and and once you raise funding, then you can't really have a job with somebody else. You need to work full time on your own company, and that's what we did. Typical day really at the moment is really focused on sales. We've got three or four really key companies, household names in the world, which unfortunately we can't mention here today. But we're going through a real big expansion with them at the moment, and we're also looking at other companies similar to them. We have a trade show coming up in Berlin, Pharma Maintenance Connect, it's called. That's on in 18 days, not that I'm counting. So that's a real focus for us at the moment, and we're always hiring as well. So we're always hiring developers and cartographers. So it's a map-based product. So that's something that we're doing. Uh, just speaking back to maintenance, we do actually look for people with industry and maintenance experience, and we've gone back through our contacts over the years, and we found one or two really good people who've spent a lot of time in maintenance execution and maintenance planning, because essentially the tool that we've built is to be sold to operations, maintenance, and facilities teams. So who better to do it and to deploy it than people with that experience? And I think that's one of the competitive edges that we have. Like, everybody within our company is from industry. Well, everybody client facing, that is, anyway.
Yeah, makes total sense. Yeah, wish you the best of luck with it as well. It sounds really, really fascinating. Just want to take a quick dive into your vast and very fascinating career path. During your career, you've worked in several large sectors such as pharma, oil and gas, and engineering. And in an article you wrote for ISP, you mentioned that sectors such as life sciences and other large legacy industries are heavily regulated and struggle to introduce significant changes due to existing digital tools and complex requirements. Could you maybe touch on the challenges of regulations in the industries you've worked in and how you've overcome working within these limits?
Yeah, I suppose I can speak directly to the pharmaceutical industry. So within the pharmaceutical industry, there's two types of two roads you can go down. You could go down the qualified route, which is working with equipment and products that can have impact on the patient, or you can go down the engineering tool route. So first and foremost is the cost of developing a tool for that's going to that has a potential impact on the patient is going to be 10x an engineering tool. So we've gone down the engineering tool route. So it's a non-qualified system, so that means it doesn't have any impact on the patient. So that is one way of looking at the regulation, saying, okay, let's be pragmatic about this, and is this product going to have an impact on the patient? And what often happens is people in these industries are quite risk averse, and they will try and assume that your product is going to be patient impact. So really, one of the main challenges is trying to communicate to people that that this product isn't what you think it is, and here are the benefits of it, and the risks that you're associating with it don't actually exist. Another, and that's one of the main challenges with the pharma industry is really that bifurcation of pathways that you can go with a product. And then going back to oil and gas, really it's about safety. It's the risks of something going wrong in oil and gas. We've seen it with the BP incident in Mexico. We've seen it with Piper Alpha in the North Sea. So anything that's going to have any kind of safety impact there, really you really have to make sure that you have all your I's dotted and T's crossed before you do that, and that often involves conversations with insurance companies and other regulatory authorities before you can deploy your product with them. We haven't gone down that route yet. We are currently looking at a safety system integration in the pharma sector, because that's where we're based at the moment, and we are talking to a global insurance company about that. But they are the challenges of deploying solutions in these industries.
Yeah, that's fascinating. As you've alluded to, you've worked in a few various sectors and different organizations, some smaller and some large. Did you feel like there was a significant jump between working in kind of smaller organizations and sectors and the big ones with regards to compliance and regulations, and maybe some other notable differences in your field?
I think one of the main, like whether I work for a small organization or a large organization, for the most part, the regulations and compliance was driven by the end client. So coming from the industries that I've worked in, big or small, the compliance has always been the same. Maybe once or twice in my life I've worked in a fish factory or a dairy, and there's a marked difference in the level of compliance when you go into those industries, and it is a much more relaxed place. But saying that, when you do work in a large organization, there isn't as much expected of you in terms of experience, because you've got a much bigger team. You quite often have a warehouse full of spare parts. So when something goes wrong or something stops, it's let's take a step back and see how we're going to fix this. Whereas if you're working in a smaller manufacturing scenario, you could be the only person there who has the skill to fix this problem, and quite often all eyes are on you and get it done no matter what.
Yeah, something we talk about a lot on the podcast, maintenance podcast, is developing how people develop a good maintenance culture. So obviously you've worked in quite large maintenance teams, you've supervised teams at Total, you've managed local technicians at Impex. It'd be really interesting to get your view on what a good maintenance culture looks like in these large teams, and how different these cultures impact the work produced as well.
Yeah, I suppose it's looking, first and foremost, it's picking the right team, and it's getting that balance of age and experience across the team, and it's being honest with yourself and saying, okay, sometimes somebody mightn't be the best person, let's say from an instrumentation perspective, to strip and assemble a valve, but they might be, but they could be really good at running the maintenance management system, or a distributed control system, or a PLC based system. So quite often what you can do is you can end up hiring or picking a team in your own image. But that doesn't work then, because obviously when you have really large complex facilities, you even though you might be running a team of all the same discipline, they nearly need to be multidiscipline within it, because some people are just more, that they're happier out in the field flogging away at a real complex problem, whereas other people are much more happy sitting at a desk. And more we're seeing that the job of somebody working in maintenance, it's especially in the regulated industries, you're probably 50-60% in the field, 40% at your desk doing work, and it's real work that you're doing at your desk as well. So it's having people who are happy to be in the field, people who are happy to work on more process driven facilities as well,
Yeah.
and it's getting all that, getting all those different skills kind of singing together, and finally giving them the right tools, be it hand tools or be it digital tools to work with, because if some people work for money and people work for status, but really what people want is they want recognition, they want the right tools to do the job, and they want to go home safely. So it's getting those pieces of the pie in place as well, and obviously you need the other stuff as well, but it's having the right tools, the right environment, and recognition.
Yeah, sure. And is that a case of, say, you'll bring someone on, put them in the field, but actually they'll want a desk job, and that's rejigging that sort of team to get that culture?
Yeah, I think if you're, it's easier if you're starting with a blank page, but if you have an existing team, you'll know who your players are as well, and you'll know where your shortfalls are within the team, and you'll bring in the right person for the job. I understand the job description for the role might be the same for everybody, but there'll be some elements of that job description that you'll be placing a higher emphasis on, depending on what your existing team looks like.
Yeah, fascinating. Using the strengths of the team,
Exactly. Yeah, it's just like any other team. It's just like any other picking any team, really, isn't it? In sport.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. A really fascinating bit that stood out on what you've done in the past is loop checking. So, I mean, it sounds really interesting. I wonder if you could elaborate on the process of loop testing and what you found to be the best practices and techniques when it comes to performing those tasks.
Yeah. So loop testing is the testing of the control system within a facility. So like a large pharmaceutical or petrochem facility would have maybe 20,000 instruments that are controlling the process, and they're all networked back to a control system that controls the plant. If you can imagine somebody sitting in a control room, if they want to open a valve, they don't have to walk to the far end of the plant to do it. It all happens automatically. So what happens is when a plant is being built or when a new piece of equipment is being commissioned, then you need to check that the instrument is ranged right, it's measuring the process variable properly, and it's sending a representative signal back to the programmable logic controller or distributed control system that will make a decision on what to do with the process with regard to the variable that's coming back. So it's a very involved job, and it involves interfaces with lots of different systems. And I suppose the main thing there is having the right test equipment to do it, because you need to simulate the process variables to do that. Obviously you need the construction of the facility to be correct, which quite often isn't the case, and that's part of the loop check job, is to ensure that the equipment is installed properly, is wired properly, and is ranged properly. So there's a big paperwork aspect to that as well, and it's getting the data sheets for the equipment, getting all the engineering documentation together basically, and making sure that that's all correct and that everything is measuring back correctly to the computer system. And so there's a cause and effect element to it. So for example, if we take a temperature is going high on a vessel, okay, the effect might be, okay, let's pump in some cold water to bring the temperature down. So there's that kind of cause and effect checking element to it as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Really fascinating.
Yeah, it's something that continues on throughout the operation of the plant in maintenance as well. But normally what happens, it's the cables and the signal and the computer at the end don't change, but what you see is the maintenance happening at the transmitter end, and that's where you get your work orders being generated for that kind of for those kind of activities, be it calibration or periodic checks or ATEX inspections, that kind of stuff.
How many simulations roughly would you run before performing a task?
But before a plant would go into operation, you could find yourself doing 25, 30,000 loop checks, and you could,
Wow.
and then during the commissioning phase again, during the actual process commissioning, you could see something similar be done again. So there's a lot of tasks to be done on large projects, yeah. But it's
Yes,
proportional all the way down, yeah.
especially with a high regulation, health and safety all
Yeah.
impacting it as well.
Well, yeah, and especially when it's patient when it's patient impact, and product contact. If you have something that's measuring, the viscosity of a liquid or the pH of an ingredient going into a cancer drug, um, that has to be right. That whatever's measuring that has to be measuring,
Yeah,
to
sure.
0.0001 accuracy.
Yeah, incredible.
Well, sounds like you've done some incredible work, and in previous episodes, we've talked about drive and appreciation for maintenance teams within the NHS and within education sectors. But looking at the safety risks that we have touched on and the high compliance environments that you've worked in, we think it's important to highlight the good work that technicians and maintenance teams complete in these sectors too. You mentioned recognition is important, and in your view, how do you think maintenance teams should go about driving appreciation to management, especially considering the extreme environments some may work in, for example, an oil rig?
Yeah, I think that specifically speaking about the oil industry, I think companies are they're very aware of the challenges that people have of working in away from home and in this kind of environment, and it's all down to the accommodation that you have, and just ensuring that people are happy and content in their job, and that's everything from giving them it's investing in the right systems and the right tools. Obviously there's the financial aspect of it as well, which is very important also, but really it's creating a relaxed atmosphere. It's giving them good workshops, good places where they can break out with their teams as well.
Yeah, and I just wanted to bring it back to the sort of tools, the systems that you used throughout your career. Obviously, we've spoken to leaders in the past. They found a good balance in the tools they use, whether that be spreadsheets, software. What sort of experience have you had in that when carrying out maintenance plans, working with teams? What have you found that works best, or you've had troubles with in the past?
Well, spreadsheets anyway are we in our company we call spreadsheets the lowest common denominator. It's the mathematical term, It's the one thing that can scale across an organization, but it doesn't scale. That's the problem, So forever and a day we've seen spreadsheets that have started with the best intentions, but in a very short period of time they become this unwieldy thing that nobody ever looks at, and somebody starts messing with the formulas, and before you know it, it's gone.
It's chaos. Yeah.
Yeah, it is absolutely chaos. Yeah. So yeah, in the past I used to build my own software tools on projects, and they were good, but again, they didn't scale well because they were just specific to those projects. So you do have the kind of pillar products like Oracle Connects or like Maximo or SAP, and these kind of these products that really, but that are they're really embedded within organizations. But what we're seeing more of now is that there's a lot of products coming into the field, into the environment, that they don't necessarily remove the need for these pillar products, but they really complement them and supplement them. It's much easier for new companies to innovate on on the data that's created by older products, and create something more out of that. So that's the way we see it going. We do see less and less spreadsheets being used, and we're seeing, because what you would have initially have seen is you would have seen exports been done from SAP or Maximo, and you would see work being done in spreadsheets. But now more and more you're seeing, rather than exports being done from these products, you're seeing APIs connecting into these products, harvesting the information, and generating insights and action points from them. And I'll be honest, we're doing that ourselves. Like our product integrates with SAP, with Maximo, with BIM models, all those kind of large pillar solutions.
And you just touched on it there. So as the experience of using spreadsheets, the chaotic spreadsheets, different software tools, has that impacted the development of your own tools? So, for example, the one you developed at Impex and the current role at PlantQuest.
Yeah, absolutely. So like all of our information did live on spreadsheets, and we were running projects based on spreadsheets, and we really did need to, we needed to step it up, because the scope was getting so big and the users were so many that it needed to be formalized in software. And what we've done in PlantQuest is very similar. We've taken a bunch of paper, we've taken layout drawings, we've taken BIM models, we've taken tacit knowledge out of people's heads, and we've condensed it into a product that looks essentially like Google Maps, that you can just interface with quite easily and quite readily, and also integrate it with your existing systems. So it's about taking paper and spreadsheets out of the system, and I think that's true for a lot of digital transformation, not just my own product or my own interest. I'm sure a lot of the products and people that you talk to, their lives their products are revolved around removing ambiguity and paper from the system, and giving people the right information that they need without having to wade through a world of pain to get there.
Yeah, removing that friction point. Yeah.
Great word, friction. Exactly. Yeah.
Completely.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Like for example, we had a case before where we had a client who it was taking them probably 30 minutes to respond to an alarm, because whenever an alarm went off, they would go to a folder of 300 A3 drawings, and they would be leafing through it, going, okay, where is the signal? Where is the signal? Where is
like a troubleshoot guide?
Yeah. No, it was literally like a maps of the
wow.
facility. Yeah. Whereas we developed a solution deployed in the brownfield that allows them to just type in an asset ID, and it just routes you straight through it, just like if you were looking for a restaurant in London or wherever you live. And that's a prime example of kind of digital transformation done well.
Yeah, brilliant.
Amazing. So to finish off, I'm sure our listeners will be really interested to hear what advice you would give to technician apprentices starting off their career and other people starting their journey in instrument maintenance roles.
I would say just invest in yourself. Just continuous improvement. Do courses all the time. And as well as that, get engaged with the process as well. There's, when you work in maintenance, you quite often just look at the task here that you're doing. But if you can learn about the process, what the facility is building and creating, then you'll be so much more enriched, and you'll inevitably move up the ladder more quickly when you do understand what's actually happening within the whole process of the facility. Another thing I would say is, join a company that's going to invest in you. I was very lucky to work for Wood a number of years ago, and there was every month we were in Aberdeen doing courses, and that has really stood to me over the years. So be investing in yourself. Really take ownership of the process that you're working on, and work for companies that will invest in you.
That's fantastic advice. And there we go. That's it for today. A huge thank you to Joe for taking the time to chat with us. We know your insights have been very helpful for our listeners. We'll be back soon with more amazing guests like Joe. Bye for now.